Hello, this is Stephanie Bedoya. This is going to be my first thought question. I'm going to be talking about prompt C. So, to begin with, the first question is, what are your thoughts about teenagers having sex? I believe that it's up to the individual because everyone has different circumstances. Develops differently at different paces. So, I definitely believe that if it's, let's say, 15 years and younger, I don't think teenagers should be having sex because they are very, very young. But once they're 16 and older, I feel like it's up to the individual if they feel that they are ready and this is something that they want to do and it's not something that they're being forced to do or pressured to doing, then I feel like it's okay. Um, but yeah, for the most part, I think it's up to them unless they're 15 years and younger. Then I think they're just too young and they could probably like regret it in the future and it could probably impact them negatively. So, yeah. The next question, how do you define sex? Okay, so sex is, I feel like that's a very broad word. There's a lot of meanings to that. I don't think that there's like one type of sex that defines it as that. I feel like there are multiple like branches, I guess you could say, to sex. So it's very like broad. The next question is oral sex? Yes, I think like I said earlier, I think that like oral sex could be one of the branches of sex overall. So I it's not like you can get pregnant from it, but I mean you can still get STDs and like it's still a very serious thing that not a lot of people realize it. I feel like people think, oh, you can't get pregnant from oral sex, so they're not going to be safe about it. But I mean, it's still very serious and could like affect your health wise. Um, what does virginity mean? Okay, so I think virginity is just like the first time, like virginity is when you don't engage in any sexual activity. So I guess like once you do engage in that, you're not a virgin anymore. And I say that very broadly because most people think that like virginity, like losing your virginity is like when you have like um like sex like with like a penis and a vagina. But I mean that's not the case for everyone. Like for example, like gay people and lesbian people, they clearly can't have sex that way, so they do it other ways. But I mean, like I still think that they're losing their virginity. I don't think that it just has to be limited to just penis and vagina. Um, at what age is best to wait until engaging in any sexual activity and why? Um, like I said earlier, I think that once you're 16 and older, I feel like that's a if you're ready, that's a good age to start engaging in sexual activities. I think that because I feel like most 16-year-olds, like, I don't want to say you're mature enough because, I mean, you're still an adolescent and, like, your frontal lobe isn't fully matured, and 16-year-olds are still doing, like, stupid stuff. But I feel like if it's something, like I said earlier, if it's something they feel they're ready for, then they can do it. And no, my answer does not depend on gender. I think I view it equally for females and males. I think that it shouldn't matter on your gender. If you're ready, then go for it. And I don't think that you should be judged for it either. Does it depend on culture? No, my answer does not depend on culture either. I think 16 for all genders, all cultures, everything. What are my thoughts on sex education? I think that sex education, if implemented correctly, I think it is a great thing. I think it's very important to educate, especially the younger generation as they start to grow up, to show them like precautions and like to use how to use a condom and like to use it and how important it is and how using a condom can prevent I mean, the most obvious pregnancy, but also like STDs, and like that can lead to like HIV, and that can lead to AIDS, and I mean that can like lower your immune system, and like you could potentially have a shorter lifespan. So I feel like those are very important things to be included in sex education. Unfortunately, sex education is not really big here in the US, or at least it wasn't in like my like schools, my public schools. I feel like I feel like people, like especially adults, like find it uncomfortable to talk about with kids, so they rather just not do it. But I mean, that's not very like smart, because at the end of the day, like a teen wants to have sex, they're gonna find a way to do it, even if you tell them not to. Especially like abstinence only. I mean, that's just horrible. Like if you tell someone not to do something, that's just gonna make them want to do it more. So I mean, at least have the sex education, show the kids like how to do it safely, and it would just be better. Um, when should sex education be implemented? I think I mean, I personally think you should start like little by little. So like I feel like you could introduce it sixth grade, like seventh grade, have more details, eighth grade, have more details, and then once they're in ninth grade, just like say everything. Just because I feel like the earlier you start, the more cautious I want to say the kids are going to be, because it's something that they're like seeing and learning about throughout the years. And so I feel like starting it at sixth grade, and then as they get older, adding more and going more into depth would be a good idea. Um, what should or should not be included in sex education? I think everything should be included in sex education, because if the kids aren't learning it, then I mean, if the kids aren't learning it from like the adult and like learning it in like a safe environment, then where are they going to learn it? They might learn it like somewhere unsafe, or something that can like risk their lives. So I feel like everything should be included in sex education, and then what the kids do with that information is up to them. Um, what are your thoughts of teen sexting? I feel like it's not very smart, um, because you could send a picture to someone that you're fine, like it's your boyfriend or your girlfriend right now, but then next week the circumstances could be different. You guys could have ended on a bad note, and depending on the individual, if they are someone who is very immature and are looking like to find revenge, then they could potentially send the um, nudes out to the school or to friends, or post them online. And once the pictures are out, they're out for good, and it's very hard to like contain the situation. I think teen sexting is very risky and dangerous, and I don't think you should do it. Some of the consequences that could come from that, like I said earlier, the pictures can get leaked, and if it's like to the point where it's super extreme, and like people are like potentially bullying the person, then that person could become suicidal, because they could be so depressed and they're being bullied, and they feel like, especially if it's teens, they feel like this is like the end of the world. They're like very like thinking with their emotions and not very logically. So potentially they could commit suicide, and it's just very like sad to think that it happened over something like teen sexting and like the pictures getting leaked. Um, who's to blame for teen sexting? I mean, I don't really think you can like blame the people. I mean, yeah, they are responsible for their actions, and at the end of the day, like they should know better to not send it, because just of the like the consequences that can come from it. But I mean, I don't think you should blame anyone. I mean, if one of the teens like send the pictures out, like the nudes, then yes, blame them. But like, I don't really think you should like blame it on the person who sent it, because at the end of the day, like they think that they're sending it to someone that cares about them and that they can trust. So I mean, I don't think it's their fault. Um, can it be stopped? No, I don't think that teens are gonna stop sexting, especially nowadays with like how big, excuse me, how big technology plays a role in our lives. Like you can look at someone, and most likely like 9 out of 10 times their phone will be on the individual, whether it's in their hand, in their pocket, in a purse, in a book bag. Like, they will have their phone like within a foot of them most of the time. So especially now that technology is so big, I don't think that you can stop sexting.